common reality is that women don't get spaces to participate in public processes publicly. They may participate, but privately, from their phones or from their homes. But when they come to a public gathering, it is considered a man's world, and men also only get to speak. So our own intuition has been that the reason why women don't get to participate is because then they are in this mass where they are not given space. So we thought through public deliberation, why not separate them so that we see whether if they learn together and they get the basics of the discussions together, and then come to an open public space, whether they could actually utilize it.
When people come together, in most cases, there are those people we consider the minorities or the marginalized, all right? How then can we ensure that these people not only are empowered to take part in the discussions, but also feel comfortable to share their proposals on what is being decided on? So that's where we're coming from.
I still want to have a ladies-only group. That one is a very selfish need for me, and I still want to see exactly whether the engagement around women in these budget processes can be improved.
Program, yeah. And these are some easy questions, mtumie tu kama guiding questions, yeah. So throughout the discussion, you can say what surprised you about the sector, mnaongea, mna discuss, what's the most important thing about this sector, these two sectors, mna discuss, least important. So just these are just guiding questions. You shouldn't use them exactly, but just to guide you to have the discussion, yeah. And that's it. So yeah, and then you keep on referring to this in case unataka kuona how much money is going to each of the departments and agencies and all that, yeah. And I'll be here in case you have any questions. Yeah. So feel free. We have only 30 minutes. After that, we will come back. Yeah. All right.
Tuanze na hiyo ya kwanza tu. Tuanze na hapo kwa mambo ya broadcasting and telecommunication. Broadcasting and telecommunication. Mimi pia nilikuwa nimechusia broadcasting and telecommunication. Na nimeichukua ndoria. And kuna surprise that in a receive the less percentage. Less communication is so vital, sindo?
Alafu kitu kingine tena yenye nimeiangalia hapo kwa petroleum, kwa mambo ya exploration na nini, I think because it is something that imeingia Kenya na kitu yenye inaweza kutusaidia sisi kama watu. Ingeongezewa nini hela, it's like wamekea tano ziko peke yao. Maana tano saizi the community are demanding more from them. Na hata hawajaanza kama maji. Mtu anatumia pesa yake anatumia kwa hiyo ndio inafaa kuigo, but kama government ingewasaidia sana, so at least because it is something that is going to help the whole of the country, ingepatiwa at least a location ambayo ni nzuri. I think those are the things that mimi nimenia. Education.
Unajua with primary education, primary education ndio backbone ya learning. Haki ndio backbone ya learning kabisa. Lakini unaona unapata wamewekewa pesa kidogo sana compared to hizi vitu zingine. I think in primary is basic education. So unaona kwa education
Afuloti vitu kama hizo. Kwa secondary wanaenda yani hapa state for education for basic education
na tu primary education. Ukicompare na university. Sasa wanataka kudevelop mtu wa juu wakati wamemua hapa chini.
Number one, you don't need to read word for word of everything. So for example, if you're looking at the first one, so you can see the share of MDA, so that's the ministries you have here. So the share of the budget that goes to each of them, for example, right? So by just looking at this, you can tell already what 25, 45, 19. So there's a 45 here, which is for roads. So even without reading the whole table, you can tell the biggest amount of money for infrastructure huwa inaenda kwa barabara. The least amount
0.07
kwa maritime affairs.
Yeah.
So you're not reading word for word. I would be happier if you guys kind of shared responsibilities. So for example, for you can look at that and kind of come back to the group and say, by the way, did you guys know I saw this and that? Then the next person sees something, then you're all able to cover as much ground as possible. When we go to the group discussion, we'll still have an opportunity to still look at them, but I would want the discussion among you to be more about what you are seeing and what you think is important and what you think is a miss as you go through. And also, it's not just what is here, but also sharing from your own experiences. So you live in Homa Bay, you see roads every day. How are they? Kind of just bringing also your own experience into this discussion. Because this is just technical from a document, but your experience could be very different.
Below is a list of some of the sector's proposals for 2018-19, together with the costs, their costs were available. They are just the same department as we saw in the recent activities.
With the rapid development, the rapid growth of the town, now that you have institutions around, some of these sectors, when all of you know that the censoring period 10 years ago did not budget for the 1,000 students that have come in due to that school. Was it Tomboya? Yes. So that would mean if there are more students, there's more housing, the town grows, and with the poor waste management system we have in this county, that would mean that there's improper littering, there's burning, which is impacting on us, especially in matters of climate change.
So there are two sides to the dominance coin. I think one side is that you might have a woman in the group who has a better understanding of the subject compared to others. And in the case that then becomes someone who is also like an information point, then it's really good for the rest of the women in the group. And I think in some of the counties, like I think one we saw in Homa Bay, is that you had a lady who was really well versed with some of the sector issues, and you could tell that even others started asking her questions, so which is a good thing.
All of us, tuanze na energy, infrastructure and ICT, we've been told to find out the various functions of these sectors. The information in the table, we are not discussing it, we'll just refer. But we need to go through it.
These are just the recent activities that took place between 2016 and 2017.
Yes. From external loans.
If you are having a dominant person in this women-only group who has very little understanding of the subject matter but is dictating everything that the group has to say and not really taking time to learn with the rest and discuss with the rest, then it means that the learning that is happening in that group, the discussion that happens in that group is very little. But if you have one on the other side who understands the subject matter and is listening to the questions coming from the others and guiding the others as the situation goes, then you definitely have a better discussion there. But I think beyond just seeing this only as a women, as what came out in this women-only group, is to think that one thing that we are trying to solve, of course, with having a women-only group is you're thinking of the marginalized groups during public forums and how to bring them on board.
I think you didn't get the point right. You said we're trying to play safe by balancing the two sectors, whereas we would need more policemen in a country like ours. And our argument actually was, if we are socially protected, I think, my dear Nora, you wrote it in such a way that George Collins comprehended it totally different. What we said is that in a society where we are socially protected, our culture is appreciated, and the recreation sector is a form of creating and tapping other sources of creating of employment. We'll be in a society where everyone is busy,
we'll be in a society where vices are not much. They are either not practiced or they are not up there. So the need to have the police amongst us would not be a necessity. So it would balance. It's like kuziba ufa ndo usijenge ukuta. We took care of our people socially, so we don't get to have people in our correctional facilities. We don't get to have our correctional facilities staffed with people who have not gotten justice, neither prosecuted nor convicted. So we would curb some of these things.
All right, so the point I was making, and I think when I was walking around, I spoke to Group 2 on this. And I want to throw it as the rest of us also, as Helen speaks to the point that George has raised. Now, the point that Felix has read around how much of the sector is recurrent in a sector where the biggest chunk of the budget goes to the police, right? And the biggest chunk of the policing service basically goes to salaries. So as all of us who are working on our sectors and thinking about these sectors, and now we are thinking a little bit more about where we put more weight, are we a little bit worried that if we cut too much of the money that is going to governance, justice, law and order, we'll actually cut the salaries that go to police? It will be nice to hear what Group 4 thought about so that they go to the 50. I think what George is challenging is, by just sitting at 50-50, are you not really compromising in a situation where you'll have actually made a certain priority decision, right?
For me, I would say for maybe Chinese, the system with the Chinese and Kenya is very different. Maybe for the toys that we see the Chinese are making, they are making watches, those toys that can move with engines. They are not educated, they are given skills. All we need is skills and change our system of education.
Do you think those skills require money? So that's the trade-off, so that's the discussion, right? I think all of us agree on one thing. All of us agree that there is an expertise challenge that we have, right? That we have to sort out. I think the point we need to get to is whether the creation of that expertise requires extra resources, or as you are saying in your last point, it just requires us to reorganize our education system, right? So that, I guess, is the point we are going for. On the education side is a question of we actually do not have the capacity to produce that expertise.
I'm giving this person the knowledge, but not skills. How can you expect that person to be an expert without skill? Our
Demonstrations picked women as one of those demographic groups that might need some kind of deliberate intervention to help them take part in deliberative forums.
If you think the reason they've given for whatever allocation they come up with is very adequate, for every reason you give between 1 and 5, tuko pamoja mpaka hapo. So for example, Group 1 wakati watakuja waseme, iko wapi Group 1? Ndio hii hapa. Watuambie hii ndio yenye tuliweka, and this is reason number 1 why we did that. I want you there to rate them between 1 and 5 to say whether you think that reason is convincing or not. Sawa sawa? Right, which group wants to go next?
Our group is Green Angels. Social protection, culture and recreation, we allocated 51%. Governance, justice, law and order, 49%. Your first reason is that if sports, arts and the library services would be promoted, crime will reduce, thus need a few policemen, prisons and courts. And then the second reason is emerging issues for social protection. When you look at the emerging issues for social protection, culture and recreation, there are many. And when you go through them, you find that there are concrete issues compared to governance, justice, law and order. The third reason, we felt that if there were more funds for children and gender empowerment,
then it would be better. We critically looked at the emerging issues for both social protection and governance, justice, law and order. And then we also considered the priorities which are affected by the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Wale watu NGO SDGs, tuko tunaangalia hizo.
The two sectors, apart from funding from the budget, can have self-funding. For example, SPCR, talent. On talent, we felt that talent is self-paying, and if you get to that level where your talent goes international, you can give back to the society, and that is a source of funding. And then the other organizations, NGOs, have also invested on that sector, and other sectors within the government, like the National Government Affirmative Act Fund. So they get funding from all over, and that balances. The second reason, the other department, which is the GJLO, also has funding from AIAs. For example, in the correctional facilities, these guys make antiques. They make furniture, they sell them. I believe these products from the prisons, that money should come back and help these various departments. The two sectors are interwoven, hence the success from one sector ensures the success of the other. And the third reason is that the society or taxpayers are if they are socially protected, the rule of law will be upheld, vices curbed, and the need to allocate more on GJLO will lack relevance. If a society is socially protected, we won't need policemen to run around. People will be busy. We have libraries, guys are busy taking on sports activities, guys are busy in institutions, and our culture is, we are making culture look graceful. Like we are learning from other cultures, they are learning from us, and we tap it in a way that it can generate some sort of income from amongst us. So if that is the kind of setup we have in our society, we won't need correctional facilities and law enforcers on our backs. So that is why we felt the 50-50 allocation was relevant.
I know the input of the citizens is very key to the various allocations. And I also know that I know that the people feel that their input is never taken seriously, since the budget making process, as by the name, suggests that it is a process. So not all of them that participate from the beginning to the end of the process. So at some point they get lost, and that is where implementations are done in their absence, allocations are done without their knowledge, and not everything goes right.
There must be reasons why a certain sector is given more funding than the other.